So we're being asked to ratify the Partnership and Cooperation Agreement with Singapore today. Just 15 days ago, Singapore passed the Foreign Interference Countermeasures Act. It's legislation which allows the authorities to force social media platforms and internet service providers to hand over user data, to block content, and to remove applications that share information considered by the authorities to be anti-state. Emerlyn Gill, Amnesty International's Deputy Regional Director for Research, has said the passing of Singapore's foreign interference law constitutes a brutal attack on the rights to freedom of expression and association, creating yet another tool that can be used arbitrarily by the authorities to stifle government critics and crush dissent in the country. A brutal attack on the rights of freedom of expression and association. And the government wants us to send a signal 15 days later, no problem, we're happy to ratify a PCA with Singapore. Last week, Phil Robertson, Deputy Asia Director at Human Rights Watch, commented, "It's hard to believe that the Singapore government could make the laws against fundamental freedoms even worse than they already are. But the Foreign Interference Act manages to do that. Failure to withdraw the law would reinforce Singapore's international reputation as a human rights disaster, both online and off." You would presume so, but then the actions of the Irish government and the EU in pushing ahead with this PCA with Singapore suggests that trade and profit is being put ahead of solidarity and human rights by the EU and the Irish government. In Singapore, capital punishment is mandatory for certain drug offences and is in effect for a wide range of other crimes. The use of corporal punishment, including caning, continues to be a standard practice within the Singapore criminal justice system and in many instances is mandatory. Singapore also continues to criminalise consensual sexual relations between men under Criminal Code Section 377A. Associations of more than 10 people are required to register with the government, and the Registrar of Societies has broad authority to deny registration if he determines the group could be, quote, prejudicial to public peace, welfare or good order. The Societies Act makes explicit reference to gender, sexual orientation and human rights as grounds for denying the registration of a group. The Registrar has refused to allow any LGBTQ organisation to register as a society on the grounds that, quote, it is contrary to the public interest to grant legitimacy to the promotion of homosexual activities or viewpoints. So on the one hand, rightly, you have the European Commission criticising the Polish government for precisely doing that, for granting legitimacy, for seeking to outlaw LGBT in whole areas of Poland and being rightly criticised by the European Commission, but on the other hand, proceeding to ratify a PCA with a country which proceeds to do this and continues to do this. The state-owned Media Development Authority effectively prohibits all positive depictions of LGBTQ lives on television or radio. In June 2017, the Advertising Standards Agency asked a shopping centre to remove the phrase supporting the freedom to love from a promotional ad for a 2017 Pink Dot Festival on the grounds that, quote, it may affect public sensitivities. So we are being asked to ratify a partnership and cooperation agreement with a government and a state with this track record that is not only appalling, but is getting worse by the week. In effect, this will be an encouragement to continue along these tracks. It's also worth mentioning that the PCA is part and parcel, comes together with the EU-Singapore Investment Protection Agreement. The latter includes notorious investment court system provisions, and as with CETA and as with the attempted TTIP before it, these provisions will establish a permanent, institutionalised, alternative legal system, a parallel justice system set up exclusively for corporations, enabling them to sue the Irish state, not in the Irish courts, but in special parallel courts, basically for anything that interferes with their right to profit, which can be determined as indirect expropriation. The Taoiseach Leo Varadkar recently admitted to me in committee that if we ratified CETA, the Canadian company which owns IRS REIT could sue the Irish state in a special investor court if we introduce further rent controls. The EU-Singapore Investment Protection Agreement would mean that the same would apply to any Singapore company, or any company which is able to say, oh, we have a headquarters or a base in Singapore. For all those reasons, we should not be ratifying this agreement.
Thank you.